Rathmullan Pier. On Wednesday the 21st of August 1957, a new pier was opened in Rathmullan. The project took about 5 years to complete, and the job was handled by the Commissioners of Public Works. The construction provided much needed employment for local people. The overall cost of the pier was approximately £100,000, and it was envisaged that much business would be gained from the export and importing of goods to and from Donegal. The Rathmullan Development Committee were for many years doggedly pushing to get this project started. The officers of the Development Committee at the time were Chairman Reverend Canon Hugh Boyle, Vice Chairman Reverend Canon G.E. Doyle, the local rector, Secretary Mr. Frank Gallagher NT, Joint Treasurers Mr. Charlie Deeney and Mr. Tommy Carr. For the occasion, the town and its approach roads were decked out in streamers and bunting. Performing the blessing of the new pier was Most Reverend Dr. McFeely, Bishop of Rathmullan, and the official opening was performed by Antonishta Mr. Sean Lamass, Minister for Industry and Commerce. Also attending were Mr. Neil T. Blaney, Minister for Posts and Telegraphs, Cormac Breslin, Lascan Collier, and former Minister for Local Government. Also in attendance was the fishery patrol vessel Maha with a 60-strong crew. The dignitaries who boarded the ship to the tune of a piper got a half-hour trip down the Swilly. A guard of honour under Superintendent T.A. Kelly and Inspector P. Malone was drawn up on the quayside by a Gardaí from the local division. After the ceremonies, a special luncheon was provided in the Pier Hotel for around 80 guests. Following the luncheon, Mr. Sean Lamass addressed the company. He spoke of his vision for rural Ireland and the need for us to increase our agricultural and industrial output, and this is where the Rathmullan Pier fitted into the government's plans. Further to the building of the pier, a potato store at a cost of £18,000 was seen as a next step in the development of the facility. It was hoped that businesses would use the facility for imports of coal, fertiliser and oil, as well as the export of potatoes and possibly of granite from the recently reopened quarry works in Ballywarrisky. Landings of fish from larger vessels was another possibility. Speaking at the luncheon, Dr. Hastings, a member of the Development Committee, urged the government ministers to leave the rail network in situ, as it was vital for the commercial and tourist interests of the county. Mr. Neil T. Blaney spoke of his vision of a 55-mile scenic highway through Fanard that would open up the whole area to tourism.
In the picture at the moment you have Archdeacon Hugh Boyle, who was parish priest, Bishop McFeely, who was Bishop of Fro at the time, and Father Paddy Deeney, originally from Cares Bay. He was a brother of Eva Deeney and Charlie Deeney down in Cares Bay. Sean Lamass, and to his left, Charlie Deeney, also of Cares Bay. He was the harbour master. And behind him, Bertie Kelly, who would have been a member of the Development Committee in Rathmullan at the time. And I think to the right of Sean Lamass could be Rosemary Sheridan, a sister of Charlie Sheridan and Craig. Rose Doherty from the Major's Road. Rose was a great dressmaker. She lived in the manse on the Major's Road. And that's young John McLaughlin from Caresbay. It looks like John Kelly looking over the shoulder of Archdeacon Boyle. John Sheridan is holding the ribbon, and Daniel Friel, the late Daniel Friel, is the altar server. Joseph Patton from the Long Hill is the other altar server. Neil T. Blaney and Dan McBride from Croghan. That's Father Tommy Doherty. There's Tom Sheridan from the Market Square. And John Sheridan, of course. James McElhinney is there again, just looking back. Frank Gallagher. In the middle of your picture, Tommy McCarn from Caresbay, who used to pilot the boats. He's wearing a brown sweater under his suit. Lexi Monaghan has got a red tie. He's John McLaughlin then is in front of him again. Yeah. Father James Friel is coming along then. He has glasses. Jerry Ward, Seamus Shields of Milford. Willie Holland is the big man there with the cap. Kathleen Doherty is beyond him. Margaret Lynch, who lived up the Bray, a sister of Susan's. There's Joseph Corcoran behind Dan McBride. Rose Doherty there again. Eddie McLaughlin now is coming along behind that pole. That's Willie McManaman. That's Rose Doherty again. John Diver in the centre. Liam Diver in the middle there. And Eddie McLaughlin nearest the camera. All the dignitaries are going on board the Mecca for a little trip. The Reverend Scott, who was the Church of Ireland minister at the time. Sidney Anderson is below Archdeacon Boyle. Hugo McFadden to the left. John again in front, John McLaughlin. Sean Lemass boarding the boat. Joe Brennan, overcoat and hat. He was a minister as well. Tom Sheridan is boarding the boat now. And Dan McBride was large as life. There's Paddy Pitt, and behind Kathleen O'Doherty, Gerard McAteer. And that's Mary Payton from the main street with the red scarf. And Edmund Payton is standing behind her. That's Harry Ewan. You have Paddy McCollum from Caradone, and then Alex Morrison wearing his cap looking back. Dennis Gallagher from the Salt Pan. Paddy Sheridan Anton from Lower Drumhalla. Kathleen McAteer from Rye. I think that might be Paddy McElhinney in the black blazer and the grey jumper. Now there's Rosemary Sheridan again to the right, wearing green, and beside her Annie Sheridan from the Market Square, Tom's wife, and then Bridget Thompson from the Market Square, and beside her John Thompson, her husband, holding Mary Florence. I think that's Julia Sheridan in front of Annie, wearing the red. Arthur Edward with the blue jumper in front of John Thompson. Kitty McMenamin from the Bray with the blue hat. To the right now of the picture, you have Patricia McMenamin and Anne McMenamin. That's James Thompson now at the very bottom of your picture. John McLaughlin. Behind James Thompson is a red tie and a red jumper. Billy and Tommy Patton. At the back you have Johnny McLaughlin, who was rusty with his arms folded. And then further up, Una McMenamin in the pink coat. And down then we had Mrs. Arkwright near the railing. She has a black suit on and a black hat. Edmund McCafferty admiring the baby. And Tommy Patton. Maggie Cooney and Frances Cooney, Francie, behind the girl with the green berry. That's James Thompson again, you see. John McLaughlin, Edmund Patton. Sidney Anderson. That's Agnes Gallagher in the pink coat in the centre of the picture. Father Willie's holding up, must be, I think it's Francis Gallagher, the late Francis. Sidney Anderson. Hugh McGloin is beside Willie. Eileen Payton. There's Dimpna Maguire as well, in the middle of the picture with the white coat. And Annie McAteer is further back in the picture, blue headscarf. Hugh Cullen from Creve and Charlie Sheridan from Lower Drumhalla, Charlie William. The Browns on their boat. John McFadden, Arthur Lynch, wearing a long black coat, and Stephen Duffy with his back to the camera. There's Winnie Lawless. Winnie was the district nurse, lived down Caresbay. That's Willie Payton and Bella from Pier Road. Willie had the butcher shop, and I think it's John with them. We have Bell's Kitchen in their memory. Willie McElwee from Milford. Mrs. Teresa O'Sullivan, Dr. O'Sullivan's wife. Francie McAteer from Rye, the publican, Gerard's father. John Sheridan. There we have Hugh McFadden, who was from Kilmacrennan, and he used to drive the bus. Garda Flanagan. From the right, Tommy Sheridan, Hugh McGloin, Father Willie McMenamin, John Kerr, and Bertie Devine. Now there's Agnes Gallagher and Kathleen O'Connor, Marjorie Blake's mother. She put on plays in Rathmullan for the children. Charlie Joe Keeney on the left and Johnny Pat Deeney on the right. Now James Cole. Joe McMackin's lived up where John Gallagher has his house now. And then we have Caro, who lived in Ahavena. The dignitaries are coming back on the boat. Joe Sheridan coming off the boat, Patsy's father. He was a carpenter. He was an undertaker, yeah. And Dr. O'Sullivan, he was always smiling. And Joe Brennan. Monica McMackin is in the centre of the picture with her hood up. Charlie McLaughlin and John McLaughlin from Leathardan, jet black hair, and possibly their father in front with his hat. There's Winnie Sheridan of Newton with the blue hat. Madge McCafferty from St. Joseph's Terrace, Annie Gallagher from Ahavenan and her daughter. The lady with the black blazer is possibly Kathleen Lynch from Pier Road.
People who worked on the construction of Rathmullan Pier. Chief Engineer Bill O'Connell. Assistant Mr. Coughlin. Clerk of Works Bertie Devine. Divers Mick Ross from Cork and Charlie Lynch Rathmullan, and Tommy Merritt on the air compressor. Timekeeper Patrick Shovelin Clondallen. Carpenters Willie Doherty Legland, Jimmy and Neil Ferry Leathardan, Daniel Goller and Dan Joe Goller, both of Killycolman. James Doherty Leathardan. Davy Maxwell Killybegs. Tony McLaughlin, apprentice joiner. Blacksmith Dan McBride. Crane driver Tommy McCarran Rathmullan and Patrick O'Hanlon Munlahan. Steel fixer John Sheridan Rathmullan and John Shovelin Clondallen. Fitter Johnny Cullingham Killybegs. Nipper Donny McLaughlin and later Michael McLaughlin, both of Rathmullan. General workers Mick McLaughlin, Arthur Anderson, Robert Merritt, Anton McLaughlin, Paddy Cooney Rathmullan, Johnny Deeney and Tommy Scott Rathmullan. John Kelly Clondallen, Danny Canning, Caradone, Mick Carr Minrea and Robert Tolan of Inishowen. Night watchmen Jimmy Barker Pier Road, Fonzie McCollum Rathmullan and Dennis Goller Saltpans.